In this week's drive, we find out what's happening to Jenson Button, have some trouble with tyres and water, see where the French think we're going, and crown probably the world's best bike racer. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start with the news that Briton Jenson Button is obliged to drive for BAR next year after all, despite announcing that he would move to Williams. Button is now likely to join Williams in 2006 after Formula One's Contract Recognition Board ended a tug-of-war between the teams. The decision, announced 3 days after a hearing involving all parties in Milan, dashed the 24-year-old's hopes of returning to the team with which he made his Grand Prix debut in 2000. In the days before the final round of the Formula One Championship in Brazil, Jenson was guest of honour at a one-meg Honda touring car race, and it didn't take much to convince Button to get behind the wheel of one of the cars for a few private laps. Button, with a career-best third place in the Formula One Championship all but secured, had agreed a 2-year deal with Williams on advice from his personal manager. But BAR said their contract was watertight and still had a year to run. Williams said they were disappointed by the decision but wouldn't challenge it. The Contract Recognition Board is an independent body backed by the FIA that resolves disputes in the notoriously litigious sport. After his run in the unfamiliar confines of a touring car, Jenson was asked what it was like.
To start with, it was a bit strange because obviously the brakes don't, compared to a Formula One car, there's no brakes and the power is very low. But after a while, when I got some heat into the brakes, it's a lot of fun to drive.
The Brazilian round saw a win for Montoya, who's leaving Williams to partner Kimi Raikkonen at McLaren, and who finished second ahead of local hero Rubens Barrichello and his Ferrari. Schumacher finished 7th. Ferrari scored 104 points more than it did last year, and BAR claimed 93 more in 04, and jumped 3 places up the rankings, promising a vibrant season next year. It was a clean start to a 400-lap race on the oval track known as the Monster Mile. Jeremy Mayfield started on pole for race 28 of the grueling 36-event series. On lap 48, Brian Vickers lost control. The resulting crash was the second time that Vickers got a close-up look at the wall. He also crashed during Friday's opening practice session, but rebounded to qualify third. On lap 119, reigning champion Matt Kenseth spun as he entered pit lane and hit the tyre barrier, which is filled with water. But the spill red-flagged the race for 12 minutes while the repairs were made. Jeff Burton also had a mishap as he hit the outside wall on the 170th lap. Burton's right front tyre went flat, which caused the crash. The fuel pump was damaged, which resulted in a worrying fire under the bonnet.
That's signs of a right front tire going down.
And that's the fuel pump that is broken, and there's gasoline sprayed back on the exhaust system.
Same deal.
Like Kenseth, Bobby Labonte spun as he tried to enter the pit road on lap 263, going off when his hot, worn tyres lost grip on the balls of shredded rubber known as the marbles.
Outside of the front row.
Ryan Newman dominated for most of the race, beating Mark Martin by 8.14 seconds on the high-banked concrete oval. His victory in the $5.4 million event was his third at Dover. It was his second win of the season and the 11th of his career. But the victory did little to enhance Newman's long-shot title hopes. He's 8th in the standings with 8 races remaining, trailing Jeff Gordon by 107 points. Tony Kanaan qualified 10th for the 200-lap season finale at the 2.4-kilometre high-banked Texas Speedway. Helio Castroneves, Kanaan's fellow Brazilian, started the race in pole position and took an early lead from his teammate Sam Hornish. Buddy Rice, who would finish third in the season's point standings with 485, was unable to finish the race. Rice completed just 42 laps before a battery failed, taking him out of the running. Dario Franchitti and Alex Barron slammed into the wall, coming off the 4th turn on the 185th of 200 laps. Barron was running behind on the outside when the back of Frankitti's car appeared to break loose. The impact pinned Barron's car against the wall. Franchitti, who raced with a broken bone in his left foot from a practice crash, hobbled away from his car with help, but he was treated and later released from the track's medical centre.
Barron is very close to the rear of the car. Alex Barron.
Dario Franchitti, helmet off now, a wave at the end of the season there as a good look at.
Barron was conscious and alert when he was taken to the hospital in Fort Worth.
See if we get a green.
Once the wreckage was cleaned up, there were only 2 laps left, and Castroneves quickly jumped away to grab a big lead on the restart.
The key thing now, Kanaan and Weldon, nose to nose with Mir on the back to be able to catch up to Castro.
For the line!
Castroneves held off Tony Kanaan, who capped off a season in which he ran all 3,305 laps, the first driver in a major American series to complete every lap. It was Castroneves' first win in his last 19 races since Nazareth in August last year. Castroneves won with an average speed of 256.4 kilometers an hour, leading 4 times for 104 laps. He tied an IRL record by winning a 4th consecutive pole in qualifying for the Chevy 500.
Castroneves was stopped.
Kanaan finished outside the top 5 only once, and this was the 6th time this season he's finished second. He ended the season with 618 points and the IndyCar Championship.
When it was finishing 3rd, and that's all it had.
European car makers presented the usual upbeat forecasts at the Paris Motor Show in the face of hefty competition from Japanese and South Korean rivals who supply more than 17% of Europe's new cars. French car makers used the show to reveal several brand new models.
The C4 is really 2 models, one the Berliner and one the Coupe, with very different and very precise characters and styles. It's also about innovation, with attention to security, comfort and serenity. The headlights turn with the car's movements to illuminate the centre of the bend. It has a steering wheel with fixed central controls, so the centre doesn't turn. All the commands for functions, the radio, telephone, GPS video screen, etc., are all on this fixed centre. An airbag is fitted, and the steering wheel has a shape adapted to the body form of the driver.
Peugeot took the wraps off its stunning Super Coupe concept, the 907. This V12 engine 2-seater is a GT coupe created with reference to the past, the present and the future, says Peugeot, the archetypal touring car. The design team's fantasy project, it's fitted with a 500 brake horsepower 6-litre V12 mounted longitudinally behind the front axle, with a 6-speed gearbox mounted just ahead of the rear axle for best weight distribution. Styling features include a glazed panel set in the bonnet, giving a view of the engine, a full-length glass panel in the roof meeting the front and rear windscreens, plus a retractable rear spoiler. The 1007 is their 2-door city car, just 3.7 metres long. The neatest feature is the twin electric sliding doors that give easier access in tight city parking areas. There are 12 18-piece interior kits that change air vents, seat covers and door trims to make a semi-customised interior. This 2-seat, 4-wheeled bike meets car concept uses 4 wheel-mounted electric motors.
Our objective with this vehicle was to tackle the challenge of miniaturisation. The fuel cell today is huge, and so we said to the engineers and designers, we are really going to try and put the fuel cell in a place as small as possible. The smallest vehicle at the moment is the quad, so it became our objective to make a quad with a fuel cell.
Renault's concept car, the Fluence, is an upmarket 4-seater sports coupe with a front-mounted 3.5-litre V6 engine. The nose is streamlined and a lack of a radiator grille focuses attention on the Renault logo. Inside, the sides of the leather seats fan out when the electric doors are opened and the car's main functions are selected on a fold-away touchscreen in the dashboard. 2 strips of glass stretch the length of the roof. Strictly a concept, Renault has no plans to put Fluence into production, but its design will influence other new Renaults in the next 2 or 3 years. Despite being very crowded and with little unrestricted off-road driving areas, large 4-wheel drives continue to sell in Europe, although some countries are examining the possibility of banning certain larger vehicles from city centres. Here's a badge every car lover knows well. Ferrari showed their new F430 model, the replacement for the 360. The V8 engine at its heart is a development of the engine used in modern Maseratis, the first time in history that Ferrari have used an engine not designed and built in Maranello. The 430 comes with a sequential manual gearbox controlled by levers or paddles behind the steering wheel, and performance is what you'd expect from a 500 horsepower Ferrari. Mind-blowing. We've seen the Alfa Romeo 8C Competizione before, but it's such a beautiful car it's worth seeing again. The 4.2-litre V8 turbo engine delivers over 400 brake horsepower through a 6-speed manual gearbox, taking the prototype to a top speed above 300 kilometres an hour. Will it see production? Stranger things have happened, especially in Italy. Jaguar appeared, under the gloom of plummeting sales and factory closures, with a stretched limo version, 5 inches longer, of the XJ Saloon. The S-Type gets a new aluminium bonnet, prices on several models will drop, and a station wagon version of the small X-Type is coming. Porsche revealed the new Boxster, which looks a lot like the old one, but Porsche say that almost 80% of all its components are new. Changes include the engine, transmission, suspension, steering, brakes, performance, handling dynamics, and even the interior. Car makers are hoping new models will meet consumer needs, but some analysts fear that that will drive up costs and cut profit. Spaniard Carlos Sainz announced at a press conference that he will end his 18-year World Rally Championship career and retire at the end of the current season. The Spaniard won 2 rally titles in 1990 and 92 and has been an efficient competitor throughout his career.
After 18 years of competition in the World Championship and many more in the Spanish Championship, I've decided to change my life in order to dedicate myself a bit more to my family, which I think is important. I have no doubt that the changes in the World Championship, from 12 to 14 and then 16 races, influenced my decision. I had 2 very good years, and we managed to meet the targets we set in each phase. This year we managed to win the Manufacturers' Championship, taking 7 podiums. I was very pleased by the victory in Argentina, which gave me a record 26 victories.
Especialmente me hizo mucha ilusión la victoria en Argentina y que supuso el récord de 26 victorias.
It's difficult for me to quit racing because I still have as much fun as when I started. And if my team wanted me to continue in the World Rally Championship, and if there's 2 seats to drive 1 or 2 cars, it would be okay. But to do things halfway has never been my style. I would love to continue my work with Citroën. We're not closing the doors to any kind of cooperation in the future. But the best decision for the team and for me is that if I decide to leave, I have to stick 100% to my decision of not continuing in the World Championship.
Es que si tomo la decisión de dejarlo, pues que la tome al 100% y no, digamos, no optando al campeonato.
The 42-year-old Sainz won the Rally of Argentina in July of this year to set a new record for rally victories with the 26th of his career. Sainz made his World Rally Championship debut in 1987 in Portugal and won his first rally in Greece in 1990. The final curtain will fall on his career at the Australian Rally in November. Sainz now intends to spend more time with his wife Race and their 3 children. Sete Gibernau breathed life into the MotoGP World title as he took pole position for the Australian Grand Prix. The Spaniard needed at least 6 points more than Valentino Rossi to take the title fight to the final round of the season at Valencia. But he gave himself the best possible chance with a new pole record at Phillip Island as Rossi failed to improve on his provisional time and dropped to 2nd place. Loris Capirossi qualified 3rd on his Ducati ahead of Gibernau's Honda teammate Colin Edwards, who announced he will join Rossi as part of the factory Yamaha team next season. Edwards would start from 4th place after missing out on a final front row spot to Capirossi by 100th of a second. Makoto Tamada also improved to move alongside Edwards in 5th place, pushing Alex Barros to 6th on an all-Honda second row. Gibernau appeared calm, but aware that his title chances were slim.
Well, the team is doing good. Since the first practice, we've been on the top, and the bike is working quite good. I think the pace is going to be pretty fast tomorrow. For sure, the guys are going to be trying very hard, and it's going to be a long, difficult race. Like always here in Phillip Island, there's small differences between all of us normally, and here, once again, it's been a hard day. I think we have not so bad setup of the bike for the race, and hopefully we'll be able to stay calm and do our race once again.
Australian Anthony West had an unhappy home event, suffering one of the fastest crashes on record. He came off his Aprilia at 260 kilometres an hour at the fastest part of the track. West broke his arm a week before in Malaysia, and the cast was ripped off in the crash. He was flown to hospital in Melbourne for a checkup. He sustained no serious injuries, but will miss the final round. Sebastian Porto, the only 250 rider who could mathematically challenge for the title, threw down the gauntlet to champion-elect Dani Pedrosa by posting a pole position qualifying lap more than a second quicker than the next fastest rider. Alex DeAngelis was that next fastest rider, qualifying on the front row for the 7th time this year. He edged out reigning 250 world champion Manuel Poggiali by 1/10 of a second. Dani Pedrosa broke both ankles in the first practice session for last year's 125cc race, and this year he took another soil sampling trip in practice, but avoided injury this time. He'd already revisited the Melbourne hospital to thank staff for saving his career a year ago. After taking victory at Sepang, Pedrosa needed just 2 points to clinch the 250 title in Australia. Roberto Locatelli set the quickest time in the 125 second qualifying practice with his very last lap to snatch pole position from under the nose of Jorge Lorenzo. Home favourite Casey Stoner had also come desperately close, lapping just 0.047 of a second slower than the Spaniard, but both were outdone by Locatelli's late effort and had to settle for second and third. Steve Yankner had sat on pole with just moments of the session remaining, but lost it in the desperate rush for times and dropped to 4th place. In the race, Loris Capirossi's Ducati leapt into a short-lived lead. By the third corner, Gibernau stormed to the front, but Loris hung on, and his teammate, Australian Troy Bayliss, was battling for 4th place. Rossi soon found a way past Capirossi and set off after Gibernau, closing up and shadowing his rival for most of the race. The two men exchanged the lead several times in the final stages. Rossi passed Gibernau for the lead on the last lap, but the lead changed hands 3 times in the run to the line. It was his 8th win this season, his 5th career victory in Australia, and the 25-year-old Italian's 46th Grand Prix win. Capirossi held on for 3rd with a photo finish for Edwards over Barros in 4th. Rossi took the last 500cc title in 2001 and has won the last 2 MotoGP championships with Honda before making a multi-million-dollar switch to Yamaha this year. He's the second rider after American Eddie Lawson to win the championship for different manufacturers in consecutive seasons. 4 MotoGP World Championships in a row, 3 consecutive wins at Phillip Island in the Australian Grand Prix. Not a bad day and season for Valentino Rossi on the supposedly uncompetitive Yamaha.
Yes, it's incredible for us. For sure, it's a great day at the end of a fantastic year where we work so well and where we are able to put the M1 at the top. So today is the fantastic finish of the fantastic championship because first this track is always incredible, always very good, and the race is a hard battle until the last to the last lap. Today Gibernau was very fast, and so the battle was very good. I tried one time, he came back, and the last lap I think was very funny for everybody. So I want to say thank you to all the fans. Thank you to Yamaha and to all my team, and it's fantastic
Gibernau needed to win, and Rossi finished worse than second to keep the title alive into the final 16th race in Spain, but his teammate Edwards can still claim fourth. In the 250 race, Pedrosa and Porto swapped the lead repeatedly. Pedrosa, the reigning 125 world champion, needed only 2 points to clinch the 250 title this year, so a finish was more important than a win, and he didn't resist too much as Alex de Angelis and Manuel Poggiali got by. Argentina's Sebastian Porto won the race, but couldn't prevent Daniel Pedrosa from clinching the World Championship with a fourth-placed finish. At 19, he becomes the youngest winner of the 250 title. Porto was followed by De Angelis and defending champion Poggiali, both of San Marino. All three rode Aprilias, while Pedrosa was on a Honda. Team manager and 500cc Grand Prix winner Alberto Puig played a key role in Dani Pedrosa's rise in the 125 and 250 titles after spotting him in the Activa Cup that he started in 1999. First and second are sealed, but Randy de Punier can still lose his third place if the erstwhile title contender's dreadful luck and poor form continue in Spain. Italian Andrea Dovizioso, who clinched the 125 World Championship in Malaysia, won again in Australia. Dovizioso, whose second-place finish behind KTM's Casey Stoner gave the Italian the title, finished the 23-lap Australian race with a lead of just a tenth of a second. Riding a Honda, he crossed the finish line ahead of Spain's Jorge Lorenzo on a Derby and local favourite Stoner riding a KTM, who virtually dead-heated. Stoner had been injured in practice earlier on race day and started the race on painkillers. While the winner's assured, the second, third and fourth places are going to be decided at the final round. Honda, Aprilia, Derby and KTM, all capable of taking final honours. The 21st Trial de Nations returned to Cordoba in southern Spain. Newly crowned world outdoor champion Takahisa Fujinami was on show in the 2004 outdoor team event. He failed to inspire his Japan team to their first title, however, as Fujinami looked strangely out of sorts on the rugged slopes outside Cordoba city. Besides Fujinami, Kenichi Kurayama, Tomoyuki Ogawa and Taichi Tanaka made up the Japanese team. The squad battled on their second run on the rocks and could only manage third place. Next were the British, winners of the team event in Italy last year. Graham Jarvis on his Sherco was eating up the mountain. Dougie Lamkin, recently beaten into second by Fujinami in the individual outdoor championship, was eager for revenge. The British foursome of Dougie Lamkin, Steve Colley, Sam Connor and Graham Jarvis bettered Fujinami and Japan's score to give Lamkin some satisfaction, but they could only finish second on the podium. Japan and Britain were two of three teams that broke away from the pack. Bruno Camozzi and his French squad didn't trouble the top three, and there was no danger of the Frenchmen adding to their haul of 5 world team titles this year. Only one national team found their groove on the tricky outcrops. Hosts and home favourites Spain were given a flying start by Albert Cabastani as their recent domination of the team events continued. By the time indoor world champion Adam Raga took to the slopes, the Spaniards were almost invincible. After a shaky start, Raga transferred his 2004 indoor form into the Andalusian countryside as the home team motored towards an 11th team trial world title in just 21 events. Raga and co will now hope to take their winning ways to Tenerife on Saturday, November the 6th, when they contest the 3rd World Indoor Team Trials event. The Spaniards won this event when it was first staged, also in Tenerife, 2 years ago. So, as we salute the career of Carlos Sainz, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.